Just one word before I get into this passage and the bit that comes after it. I think it is really significant that we're back here this morning. I love meeting at the school, but I just felt God impress on me this morning. We belong at the heart of this community. At the very heart of this community are Christians who love and pray for Wheatley and its surrounding villages. And obviously we're not the only church who is involved in that, but we belong here at the heart of the community. And I just felt like God wanted to remind us of that this morning. Let's be praying for the place where God has placed us, and let's make sure that we are involved at every level with this village and the surrounding ones. Well, if you have been following our preaching plan, you will see that I've actually stolen the end of Jeff's passage, but he didn't pick up on this bit because he was preaching particularly on the parables, so I don't feel that's cheating. But Jesus calms the storm, and then Jesus goes on to perform quite a few other miracles. We're going to look at those today, but I'm just entitling this Jesus verses, okay, because we see Jesus taking on all kinds of things. But I wanted particularly for Virginia to read this passage because Jesus asks his disciples a question. Why were you so afraid? And I don't know, have you ever thought, did the disciples ever talk back? Did they ever kind of give back chat to Jesus? Jesus, you know full well why we're so scared. We can't swim and our boat was sinking. It's a bit obvious, isn't it? Now, we don't read of them doing that, and maybe I'd have got into trouble as a bad disciple if it was me. But the fact is, it's a good question because Jesus asks it, but the answer seems obvious. We're going to come back to that. Before we do, I want to show you something. So we're going to play rock, paper, scissors. Now, if you're at home, please stand up as well. If you're in the hall, can you please stand up? Now, the way we're going to do this, because we can't all play against everybody else, what we're going to do is I'm going to do rock, paper, scissors, and if you lose to me, you need to sit down. If you win or it's a draw, you can stay standing up, and we're going to see who's last person standing, okay? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then show, okay? So 1, 2, 3, rock. Okay, so if you've got scissors, sit down, please. Okay, oh, weeded them down already. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, any scissors, sit down again. Oh, we've still got some people standing. There's some people at home. Yes, Ian's still standing by the looks of things. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, he's gone rock again. Scissors, sit down. Oh, we've got 2 strong papers at the back. Okay. Right. Anyone still standing at home? Jemima's still standing? Ivan. Oh. 1, 2, 3. Rock. Oh, they're holding out. They're holding out. Okay. Last time. We'll do this last time. 1, 2, 3. It's paper. Ivan, you're out, I'm afraid. Sorry. Okay, we've got 2 tenacious people at the back. You win. Well done. Very good. Now, I want to continue this game a little bit further, but because of social distancing, I'm going to have to ask Elise to represent the winners. So, Elise, can you come up here, please? Okay, and just stand here for a second. Okay. No, you don't have to make a big deal of it. Okay. Can you stand on camera? So just here. Okay, we're going to play just a little bit further because I've got an idea for how I can guarantee beating you. Okay, I'm totally going to beat you. Ready? 1, 2, come on, you have to do this. 1, 2, 3. What's that sign? Jesus. Yeah. Elise has done the Jesus sign. Does Jesus beat rock? Yeah. Okay, because he's Jesus. Because he's Jesus. Okay, I suppose he could have turned the rocks into bread, couldn't he? Okay. Okay, I've got a better idea. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Chainsaw must beat Jesus, surely. No? Oh. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Velociraptor versus Jesus? What do we think? You reckon Jesus still wins? Jesus beats Velociraptor. He did make Velociraptors. Okay, last one. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Coronavirus. No. You reckon Jesus beats coronavirus as well? Fine. Okay, you go sit down. Look, the point is this. Jesus beats everything. Okay, silly way of showing it, but serious point. Jesus calms a storm. He then gets to the other side of the lake where he meets what is probably the world's scariest man. This guy has not worn clothes for so long because he is so out of his mind. They try to tie him up with chains and he breaks chains. Can you imagine what this guy's like? He lives among the tombs. You can't imagine what he must look like. And Jesus faces up against the world's scariest man, who the scriptures tell us is possessed by forces of evil, that are causing him to live this tormented life. And Jesus speaks a word, and the evil is driven out. And if you want to read that story, you might remember that just to show the power of the evil that has been driven out of him, Jesus allows the demons to go into a herd of pigs, and the evil is sufficient to drown that entire herd of pigs. And Jesus speaks a word, and it's gone. They then cross back over the lake again, and Jesus is talking to the crowd, and Jairus, the local synagogue leader, comes and falls on his knees and says, "Please come and heal my daughter, she's dying." And while Jesus is on the way there, he encounters a secret disease. Nobody else in the crowd even knows that it's there, just the woman who suffers from this bleeding. She has to keep it a secret, because if it was known, then she wouldn't even be allowed to be out there. She would be ritually unclean. And she reaches and touches Jesus, and he heals her. And then he says, "Who was it?" And in the process of that conversation that follows, he also restores her social standing, because everybody there knows that she has been healed and that she is clean. And then he gets to Jairus' house, and the trouble is the girl's died. And Jesus goes in and he touches the girl, and she is raised from the dead. Jesus is stronger than nature. He speaks a word, and the storm is calmed. Jesus is stronger than evil powers, and Jesus is stronger than death. So why is it that Jesus asks his disciples, "Why were you so afraid? Don't you have any faith?" He doesn't ask it because the storms are not dangerous. Storms are dangerous, particularly if you can't swim, particularly if you're in a small boat, particularly in the days before coast guards and lifeboats. He doesn't ask it because the storms are safe. He asks it, well, you have a think about why he asks it. He doesn't ask it because the devil isn't real. The devil and the forces of evil in this world are real and present. There are even lawyers who have come to faith because they heard, and you hear about this in the Alpha Talks actually, they heard somebody speak about the forces of evil and they said, "I see this every day, and I believe that that's real, so I'm going to believe that there's a God who can overcome it." When it comes to Jairus and to the woman with the issue of blood, it's not because illness doesn't matter or because death isn't tragic. Those things affect us deeply. But in the midst of all of that, Jesus says, "Why were you afraid?" Because I want to offer you 3 illustrations. Now, different ones of these will work for different people. The first one is this. For those who have read the Gruffalo, now you can probably see that there, just about. Hopefully that will just about work for you guys. Okay, the Gruffalo features a mouse who encounters 3 predators, and on the way back, as he comes back towards them, he has a Gruffalo walking behind him, this huge, hulking sort of beast. And all these predators see the mouse, and then they look up, and they see the Gruffalo, and then they run away. Now, it's not that these predators aren't dangerous to the mouse, it's just that the mouse has got backup. And when Jesus says, "Why are you afraid?" perhaps that picture works for you. We might be the mouse, and we might be facing up against predators, and at the moment, these are reminders of one of the predators that we face, but we have backup. It's not a Gruffalo, it's Jesus. We didn't do Jesus versus Gruffalo, but we know who wins. The second illustration that might work for you, and this is an interesting one because this could work in conversation with people who don't know Jesus as well. Some people say life's like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. But the thing is that roller coasters don't happen by accident. Roller coasters are designed. There is a creator to the roller coaster who has made it so that there are ups and downs. And actually, on a roller coaster, sometimes you are actually falling. Sometimes you are actually experiencing 3G on the corners or whatever it might be. It's not that that's not real, but there's a designer who has made it so that at the end, you still end up safe back at the station. And life is like that. We might go through genuine ups and genuine downs. And faith is not about saying they don't matter, but it's about saying that in the midst of coronavirus, or when you've just got married or just had some wonderful life event, highs and lows, they're real, but there's a designer who sees us safe to the end. Why are you afraid? Jesus will see you safe to the end. The third illustration is one for those who love their hymns. And it's one that I sang at school, and I never knew the importance of it at school because I wasn't a believer back then. But it goes like this: "Father, hear the prayer we offer. Not for ease that prayer would be, but for strength that we may ever live our lives courageously. Jesus has overcome everything, which means that we don't have to live lives where all we're trying to do is just live as free from pain and suffering as possible. I'm all for praying for healing. I'm all for seeing people set free from things. But you know what? That is not the most important thing. We are on an adventure with God, and there will be ups and there will be downs, but we get to live it with God. And we get to live courageously. We get to serve God's kingdom. So whichever of those three pictures works for you, Jesus has overcome everything. And because of that, we do not have to be afraid. If there's one thing to take away from today, Jesus has overcome everything. We do not have to be afraid.